we've got a Pokestop to build. And because of a questionable deadline decision made by Captain and I, we do not have a lot of time to build it. So, no time for the rest of an intro. Let's just get to work. So our goal for this project was to have it done and ready for the next Pokemon Go Community Day, which is an in-game event that happens once a month. Now we happen to have had this idea to build the Pokestop exactly 1 week before the next scheduled Community Day, hence the time crunch. So Captain got straight to work modeling all the pieces he was going to need in his 3D software. From there he was able to give me the dimensions he wanted, and I used those dimensions to model it out in a 2D software, then printed it to scale over as many sheets of paper as that needed to be in order to get the correct size for my template. Then it was just a matter of taping all the pieces together and then cutting out the stencil in one full piece that I could trace onto the foam. Now, because of the tight time frame that we were working with, we didn't have time to wait for anything to be delivered. We couldn't order anything. What we ended up getting were a bunch of individual squares that were about 1 meter by 1 meter. So because of the sizes that we were working with and the diameter of our largest circle, it meant that we had to cut down the template so that it was able to fit onto a foam piece. But it is what it is, and you work with the materials you've got. So once all those pieces were cut out, it was time to start attaching them. I'm using a contact cement for this step, and just kind of brushing that onto all of the edges of our foam pieces, setting them aside to dry, and then going back to connect them once the cement had set. We did need to hide some electronics inside these foam layers. This is going to be a fully functional Pokestop. Captain is really great at adding that kind of functionality to these projects. So while I'm building this base for the Pokestop, he's been the one who's actually making it spin at the touch of a button. So he has these little pieces that he's 3D printed, and he's put some motors and wiring inside those, and he's given them to me to incorporate into the inner rings, the inner 2 layers of the 4 layers of foam that I'm working with. So I use it as its own template to make a cutout of the foam for the exact size we need for it to fit into that space, and then glue the edges of the foam directly to the edges of this electronics box. The box itself was approximately 2 layers of foam thick, so it nestled kind of nicely in those inner 2 layers, and then we had the full ring outer layer on either side to be the front and cover it up. And then of course came the long process of gluing all of these pieces together in those layers. It seemed like a relatively simple and straightforward step, but it was a tedious and time-consuming step. There was a lot of surface area to cover. So I ended up being outside for an entire day. We ran out of contact cement. Captain had to go and get more. I kept going. It was just a way longer process than I realized it was going to be. But in the end, everything was looking pretty good, and I was happy to move on to my next step. Now that I had all the layers of my pieces attached to each other, the pieces didn't end up being exactly symmetrical, exactly matching up with each other because of that bit of error that was in my pattern that transferred over to that bit of error when I traced it, and that bit of error when I cut it, and then lining them up. So like bit by bit, they just kind of got misaligned. And you could really see this pretty clearly now that they were all attached and the edges were so mismatched. But it was really important that they did line up as much as possible, so I had a lot of work to do cutting down the edges, filling in gaps, and sanding, and sanding, and sanding. I did most of this work with my Dremel. As you can see, as it goes along, I get progressively more and more covered in the EVA dust. So I did make sure I was wearing a respirator the whole time, goggles, the whole shebang, and just kept going, trying to get everything as smooth and level as possible, making it look like a nice clean edge, getting all 4 layers laying flat with each other. And this was another really long, tedious step that was taking even longer than I expected. But I did my best, and in the end, it actually ended up looking pretty good. And then I actually ended up handing off some of it to Captain. He continued to sand even more, filled in some cracks with Bondo, did a lot of really fine tuning, and then was able to go on and prime it and paint it and all of that stuff, while I moved on to other parts of this project that I needed to tackle. Okay, so now that that is finally done and out of the way, and Captain and I can start painting those pieces whenever we have a moment, next we move on to this. This is super cool. I'm really excited about it. Captain fully modeled and printed all of this on the 3D printer. It opens up. It's got a spot for magnets to actually hold it shut. And this is what all of our little gifts are going to come out of. When you spin the Pokestop, you get an item. The item comes in a gift. So it's all fully primed and everything for me. All I need to do now is jazz it up, paint it, add a big ribbon on top. So the gift was exciting to work on. I found a vinyl that looked to me like the perfect color for the ribbon and the base. For the base, I just traced the bottom of the gift. I kind of rolled it on the edges so that I could trace this kind of perfect map all the way up to where it needs to go. And then I cut that out, peeled off the backing, stuck the present down on top of it, and folded up the edges. Good to go. It worked really well. It was nice and simple but effective. And then to assemble the ribbon, I started cutting out just strips of the vinyl, and I started assembling them kind of into loops, and then fitting them together in a way that I thought looked about right compared to the reference. I started out just taping them in case I needed some adjusting, and then once I was happy with how it looked, it was just a matter of hot gluing everything into place to hold it together in a more finalized way. And then the last step was just some painting. I needed to paint the main body of the gift yellow, and I just used some simple acrylic paint to do that, and it ended up looking great. Alright, so now that this beautiful gift is done, I absolutely love it. I like it a lot. I'm really this has become actually my favorite part of the entire project in a way, which seems weird, but I really love this gift. But yeah, now that that is done, we finally get to move on to the relaxing part of this project. Now we sit and crochet rock and roll us. Alright, so we've got our Roggenrola, and we've got our shiny, of course, and then we've got our whole little mini army to hand out. More would have been great, time being what it is. This might be what we've got for today, but heck, that's still pretty good. That's a nice little set of Roggenrolas for people to win. And we've been cutting stickers this whole time too. So that is what everybody who is not lucky enough to win one of these little babies gets, which in my opinion is still pretty heckin' cool. I started making them because I really wanted those stickers in real life. Hopefully other people do too. And with that, I would say we are ready for Community Day.
You get a gift as well.
Really?
Yeah. Stickers. Yeah, no worries.
Well, that was a crazy week, and I am exhausted, but so happy with how everything turned out. Captain's work, pulling that all together right at the end was incredible. The community, everybody we met was so excited and grateful and incredible. The entire experience was just everything I could have possibly asked for and more. Now, I know that Captain Steele and I could have done an even better job with this if we had had a little bit more time to work on it, which is why we are already putting some thought into version 2 that will be coming eventually, so if you're interested, stick around. But for now, I'm already excited for the next Community Day. We definitely have plans to be going out to different parks in the area for the next few, so if you happen to be in the Kitchener, Ontario area, or really anywhere in the Greater Toronto area, please do consider following both myself, Katzer's Creations, and the Real Captain Steele on any of our social media platforms. I'm going to have links to all of them below. That's where you can really kind of follow along and see where we're going to be every Community Day. We really would love to see as many people coming out as we can. It's so great being able to connect with you all. So shout outs to the community, everybody we met on Community Day. You were just amazing. It meant the world to us to hear all of your kind words and see how excited you were. And we really appreciate you letting us film and being a part of our videos. Even huger shout out, of course, to Captain Steele himself. The work he did on this project was absolutely phenomenal, and really it is quite extraordinary what he was able to do and the troubleshooting and everything to make this come together in the time frame we had. So you absolutely have to check out his video showing the engineering side of everything. There's going to be links to that on screen. There's going to be links to his channel in the description below. It's a really awesome video. And if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel or checking out some of my other videos. I do a lot of stuff like this. I've got a couple other Pokemon Go themed projects coming up in the near future that I'm working on. And of course, version 2 of the Pokestop will be coming at some point. So follow along, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Share it with all your trainer friends, and we'll see you next time.